let's start with our review of the key stories in the headlines in newspapers. And I'm joined by the Sunday Times editor, Makhudu Sefara, a good friend of the show. Welcome back. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning.
Is it good afternoon? Yeah, it's been a long day.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me, and happy Africa Day.
Sure. So let's just roll through some of the headlines as they stand. We'll start with the Sunday Times, your paper, your title, and just show what you're leading with. I see you leading with a story that has to do, it says, Devil's Ransom. Kidnappers use horror rape videos to extort victims' families. There it is on the screen. It's a concerning story. If we swiftly then show what is on the front page of the Sunday Tribune, the Sunday World, all right, that's fine. The Sunday Tribune says DA Minister, quote-unquote, sabotages South Africa's BEE to appease Musk. So it's that story as well that developed on Friday. And then lastly, is we take the Sunday World. On their front page, creditor guns for Bobby's Chiefs shares. So we've got lots to cover between the two of us, Makhudu.
Yeah.
Let's start though with your front page, the Sunday Times. Devil's Ransom. Kidnappers use horror videos to extort victims' families. I read it. It's a heartbreaking, horrifying, and quite telling story of the times that we live in South Africa. Tell me about the investigation and the work that you put into that story.
Yeah, we've had the story for a couple of weeks now, but we couldn't publish last week because of the anticipation relating to the Oval Office and this, that, and the other. But it's a story that needed the space to breathe because of exactly what you just said. It's worrying. Previously, we would have seen that there's kidnappings in our country. People are targeting the super rich because there's a lot of money to make out of that, apparently. But what's beginning to emerge is that not only are people targeting ordinary people where they are able to get 10,000, 30,000, or whatever amount that they require. Is called express kidnappings. But what this story then does is to take that forward to say people are beginning in their desperation to force families to pay up quickly to record the people who are kidnapped. And to unleash some very horrific things against those people. And this includes raping them and recording them as they are raped. And many other things, that are really just difficult to come to the lips.
It is difficult. It was difficult reading, as I said. So, I mean, describing it is very difficult,
In fact, even the senior police officers say to us, look, we are trained professionals and we deal with all manner of things. But having watched the videos that we've watched about what happened to these people, we can only imagine what happens to the families and the people who are subjected to this, because we as trained officers are struggling. But it's an important thing that I think as a country we need to pause, think about, and then say, what needs to be done, because the police are giving us a very chilling warning in the piece. They say kidnappers seeing or realizing that this method of just video taking or doing video recordings and subjecting people to this is working. And because of that, they're seeing an increase in this pattern of crime. And I mean, I just thought this is horrific. This is it deserves.
Absolutely. And, and hopefully, Makhudu, it leads to an elevation of the conversation. And fortuitously for you as well, your release of the story, because you couldn't release it last week, coincides with the crime stats having come out this week. That are showing a decline across many categories. But, I mean, a story like this, that brings forward the confluence of so many crimes in this country: sexual violence, rape, kidnapping, the violence associated with those crimes as well. I think it should elevate the conversation about our crime situation.
Yeah, it should. In fact, it's two things for me. This week was most apt because of the crime stats, but also because of what our leaders said in the Oval Office, that in order to do away with this thing that we know is false about genocide in our country, our leaders had to sit in the Oval Office and say to the world, this is the spectre of crime that we have in our country. It may affect both black and white people, but you know, this is what is happening. I mean, I've watched and rewatched you know, what happened in that Oval Office. I've looked at the president of COSATU struggling to explain and talking about, you know, people whose throats are slit, elderly women who are, you know, and there's that. And then the police minister, who in my estimation, I think ought to have been in the Oval Office. Because if you're going to talk about genocide that you are explaining is crime, you know, your most senior official dealing with crime needs to be in the office to provide, you know, some context and whatever else that is missing in the political conversation that's happening there. But I've moved there. But you're quite correct that the conversations that we are having in our country shouldn't just be about, you know, crime stats have been released, or that, you know, here's an incident that's, or a little pattern that's, that's identified by the Sunday Times. It ought to be coherently, what is that strategy that's being implemented to make sure that, you know, the kind of spectacle that was being created in the Oval Office is obviated, and that the kind of statistics we're having, you know, show a graph that's facing downwards.
Basically, the message should be very clear, and we shouldn't be afraid to say it out loud. Forget the non-existent genocide. Let Trump worry about that. Here is our reality, a crisis that actually exists right now. Before I run out of time, though, I do need to move you along. Let's talk about this story I think is common to all of the titles this Sunday. Solimalatsi, what is he doing? What's that about? BE tweak, you say in your headline. BE tweak, not created for Musk. This has to do with the timing of his directives, right? Kevin come out a few days after that Oval Office meeting. We spoke to him, and he says, no, this has absolutely nothing to do with what happened in Washington. We were going to do this thing, and that it's a thing that is necessary. But if you listen to other people in the same space, like Net Kekana, who's quoted, I think, in Sunday World, and other people in the Sunday Tribune, if you look at all the communication around this thing, people are saying, look, even though this is what you say, on the surface it looks like shortly after this trip, and shortly after the discomforts created in Washington, and shortly after the guy who has said to the country, I'm not doing this BEE thing of yours, you know, it's race policies, you know, he goes in there, and we know he's the US president's buddy, and he goes in there, he sits, and they have these conversations about Tesla and other things, and then, you know, hours later, bang, this is the thing. But the people who are opposed to this thing are saying, no, you can't just open this window for something that's predetermined to just benefit Elon Musk. You need to have a more broader conversation that says, what do we as a country do with the BEE laws? In fact, as you're saying that, then Makhudu, let's bring up the Sunday Tribune front page. It says, DA minister sabotages SA's BEE to appease Musk. There's going to be a lot of political traction and mudslinging around this. It's quite clear. Even the ANC, very early on, is, from what I read, they seem to be positioning themselves to be saying, hey, we don't know about this thing. We may be in a GNU, but we don't know what he's doing.
What the ANC is trying to do there is to say, it may be correct that it is in fact so. They're saying, look, we are pro-transformation, and that this thing that the minister, who may be part of the GNU with us, is doing is something that we don't agree with. You would have seen on Friday, Kusela Diko,
Yes.
who chairs the Portfolio Committee on Communication in Parliament, saying we can see legal action being taken. There are, errors and all manner of things. We wanted to talk to her. She didn't want to elaborate because the minister is going to appear in Parliament on Tuesday. That's the throw forward. So that's where the drama is likely to unfold. But within the ANC, those who are able to communicate are saying, the minister is on his own frolic on this one. We don't know what he's saying. As far as we're concerned, if there's an opening up, it should be brought to the industry. But
there's never a dull day, never a dull day in this GNU, Makhudu.
Yeah.
As soon as we get over the VAT issue, something else comes up. Another story that caught my attention also on the Sunday Tribune is at the bottom of the paper. It talks about Farhad Huma launches Islamic State Party. It's a story that I saw a few weeks ago with a little poster in a campaign about people saying, make your voice heard. There's this application to register a party called Islamic State Party with the IEC. So they've followed through and they've spoken to the leader there. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, ours is a free country, as we say. In Washington, part of the thing that they needed to explain is that we have a leader of a political party who is able to make the comments that he's making because we are free. So here, what this political organization is doing is saying, we have a constitution in this country, and a constitution allows people to do whatever, and there's a clear, discernible constituency that believes in what we're putting on the table, and we think we should not be afraid, we should not be bullied, as the president said, but in a different context this time, that we can create this political party, and to the extent that there's traction for that political party and it's registered with the IEC and it receives support, we'll see how it performs. I mean, local government elections are around the corner, so let's see how they do. I've
got to move us quickly because we are on standby for that conversation with former President Thabo Mbeki. Let me take you to the Sunday World. The words financially embattled, I don't associate those words with Bobby Motaung. What's that about? Talk of a creditor gunning for sequestration of his estate.
It's a long-running battle against him. I think there's an order of court that was made. He owes the businessman about 4.3 million, and he's been struggling to pay. And the businessman says, as is articulated in the piece, that this man is living a lavish lifestyle, and Kaizer Chiefs is now en vogue. They've won whatever they've won, and he's not paying. And I would like him to be liquidated, and whatever shares he has in Kaizer Chiefs to be auctioned in order for us to be paid what is due to us. I think that's. Makhudu,
thank you. Completely out of time.